Welcome Trinidad and Tobago to our News 4 report, a product of the Government Information Services Limited and the Ministry of Communications. I'm Joseph Lopez. Let's take a look at the headlines. Attempts by the government to help reverse the increased price of cement. New medical equipment for Scarborough Hospital. And an exclusive interview with the Justice Minister on Tobago self-governance. The government of Trinidad and Tobago is doing what it can to reverse the increase in cement prices. That is the message being given by Minister of Trade, Industry and Investment and Minister in the Ministry of Finance and the Economy, Senator the Honourable Vasant Bharat, at a recent PostCabinet press conference.
Minister Bharat, speaking at a post-cabinet press conference, says he has had meetings with management at Trinidad Cement Limited. He says at these meetings he was apprised of the possibility of a price increase as TCL's input costs have increased significantly. This has resulted in a decision to raise the price of cement by 9.5%. However, Minister Bharat says such an increase could have serious financial implications not only for citizens but also for the government.
Government has embarked, as all of you will know, through the Minister of Finance in his budget speech, has embarked on a very aggressive campaign of construction for the period 2013 to 2015. And if I may remind you of some of those, we have the Point Fortin highway, we have the widening of the Rivulet Road, we have also the highway from Komoto to Sangre Grande, we have several administrative complexes for the regional corporations, we have the 4 magistrates' courts. Many of those are directly funded through the PSIP and government contracts, but also we have several public-private partnership agreements in place to develop many of those infrastructural projects.
Minister Bharat says after talks with the government, TCL has attempted to find a way to reduce the cost of the most expensive input, which is gas.
What TCL is requesting is a waiver from the National Gas Company of their escalation clause for the next 8 years. In other words, there is an escalation clause in the price of gas from NGC over the next 8 years. TCL is requesting a waiver of that. And they're also requesting to be reclassified as what's called or deemed to be a middle user, which will entitle them to a lower gas price than they currently enjoy.
The Trade Minister says once the government is successful in helping TCL reduce their costs, a reduction in input costs will lead to some reversal of the price increase.
We intend, and I intend, to go back to the CARICOM countries through COTED to look at the possibility of some form of relief of the 15% duties on cement that comes in ex-CARICOM. In fact, there is precedent for this. In 2006, the then government went to COTED and had a removal of duties on cement for a period of time. So there is precedent for it. And the second option that we are exploring, that Cabinet has mandated, is that we sit with TCL and look at the possibility, first of all, based on their true operational costs, look at the possibility of negotiating the gas prices that they currently enjoy, with the proviso, of course, that any decrease in the cost of that input will then be passed on subsequently to the consumer.
Gregory McBurney, News 4.
The debate on Tobago self-governance is set to take place next week, and on the cards are proposed changes that will enable political and administrative autonomy for the island. Justice Minister, the Honourable Chrislyn Moore, sat down for an interview with News 4 to explain the legislation and the impact it will have on those living on the island.
With the Tobago self-governance bill set for debate in the lower house in a few days, the revolutionary piece of legislation seeks to bring empowerment to the people. Under the changes, Tobago will be given political and administrative autonomy, which means the power to make its own laws and borrow loans. Currently, Tobago is governed by the THA Act and only has powers to formulate matters on the 5th schedule, which limits its ability to make policies and generate revenue. Justice Minister Chrislyn Moore explains how the enactment will affect citizens on the island.
The effect of this would be huge on the average person in the street because it would mean the Tobago legislature, who is in the best place to determine what laws would be applicable to the people of Tobago, now for the first time have the powers to enact those laws. For the first time would have the power to make policy and make laws redounding to that policy. So that is one enormous change that the new legislative arena would bring.
She assures the move is one common in the Caribbean, as several states function in this manner. Minister Moore adds the arrangement of making one's laws is necessary as it caters to specialty needs for those living in Tobago.
I would want to compare us to, say, St. Kitts Nevis, where Nevis has a form of internal self-government. In fact, St. Kitts and Nevis have what I would style as a loose federal arrangement, where Nevis makes laws for Nevis and St. Kitts acts as the federal government. So that it is a similar sort of situation that recognizes the individual peculiarities or specialties of groups of people. And these individual, let's say, traits or peculiarities become pronounced when that group is surrounded by water. So that there are Caribbean neighbors who have similar constitutional arrangements. We are not unique in the region and certainly not unique in the world.
The bill gives Tobago sole purview under its administrative power for the collection of revenue. With the expansion of the nautical mileage surrounding the island to 11 miles from the current 6, exploration of petroleum resources is expected to occur.
If you have resources in this 11 nautical mile area, the current constitutional provisions allows you to make laws with regard to the collection of revenue from any resources, minerals, petroleum, fishing, found in that 11 nautical mile area. This means that Tobago, for the first time, can seriously pursue revenue generation and get on a path to self-sustainability.
The bill guarantees an increase in budgetary allocations, as well as freedom to borrow 15% of its public sector investment program, PSIP, for each financial year. Minister Moore says this will benefit citizens even greater as it promotes self-development of the island.
The allocation from central government may not in any one year adequately reflect the goals of the Tobago legislature, or it may not be consistent with its development plans, and so there may be a need to borrow. This can only be to the benefit of the average Tobagonian, because it is anticipated that this borrowing is going to be, of course, for capital expenditure. Any questions about the unlimitedness, for example, of the borrowing would be put to rest by the fact that there is a cap on the borrowing.
As a Tobagonian herself, Minister Moore says the move is a most welcome one and feels privy to witness its occurrence.
I think most Tobagonians are overwhelmed at the thought of it. Most of us have felt that we would have never seen the day. This is a 123-year struggle for historic justice, and the time has come. So I am overwhelmed to be here and to be witness to this process.
The bill is up for debate next Tuesday in the lower house and requires three-quart majority for its passage. Kimberly Ramkalawan, News 4.
When we come back, plans to reintroduce agriculture into school curriculum. Stay with us. Thanks for joining us. There's good news for Tobagonians in need of medical attention. The Ministry of Health will spend over $30 million to outfit the newly constructed Scarborough Hospital. New medical equipment.
Minister of Tobago Development, Dr. the Honorable Delmon Baker, made the announcement while speaking at a post-cabinet news briefing. The equipment will ensure heart patients who usually come to Trinidad for treatment can now easily access it in Tobago. Minister Baker says the new equipment will cost an estimated $34 million.
The Cabinet, after presented by the Ministry of Health, has agreed to purchase by open tender a modular cardiac catheterization laboratory and an MRI machine for the use of the Scarborough General Hospital, and that is budgeted or estimated to cost $34 million, VAT inclusive. Now, what is a modular cardiac catheterization laboratory? This is one that is used to perform a number of cardiac diagnostic and therapeutic procedures. These typically include angiograms, coronary interventions, closure of congenital heart defects, treatment of stenotic heart valves, and pacemaker implantations.
Minister Baker reveals hypertension and diabetes are two of the most common medical ailments in Tobago. He explains the ailments can sometimes lead to patients having to have their limbs amputated as a result of the vascular complications from the illness. He says the new machines should help to reduce the occurrence of forced amputations.
The number of amputations at the Scarborough General Hospital exceed the national average and are in the region of about between, in some cases, 6 to 20 amputations per month. With the new equipment, with the MRI, and of course the possibility of this cardiac catheterization laboratory coming to Tobago, it would mean that we can open up these blood vessels and allow for blood to flow to the peripheries or the distant ends of the limbs, and this will save a considerable number of Tobagonians loss of limb and possibly loss of life because of the intervention of the Ministry of Health and of the Cabinet of the Government of Trinidad and Tobago.
Gregory McBurney, News 4.
Food Production Minister, Senator the Honourable Devant Maraj, has outlined plans to reintroduce agriculture into the school curriculum by January. Speaking at the distribution of produce to the Sri Jaya Lakshmi Children's Home in Londonville, Central Trinidad, Minister Maraj says reintroducing the practical side of agriculture in schools will aid in reviving an interest in the sector.
Food Production Minister Devant Maharaj says critical to the growth of the agri-sector is the reintroduction of agriculture in the nation's school curriculum. Speaking at the presentation of a food basket to the Sri Jaya Lakshmi Children's Home, Minister Maharaj says bringing this back to the nation's schools will aid in creating an interest among youth for the sector.
We just are in the process of finalizing, of introducing agriculture in schools once again. My staff just left a meeting with the Ministry of Education, whereby schools will provide grow boxes and so on. And these we have decided to include homes such as Jayalakshmi Homes, St. Mary's Homes, and others, the Bridge of Hope in Sandy Grande and so on, whereby to get the children involved in agriculture in that small way because it's manageable for children. Later on this month, we hope also to partner with the Ministry of Science and Technology as we develop and launch OJT agriculture, which will be another component of strengthening the labor support for the agricultural trust.
This is the second such distribution of fresh fruits and vegetables harvested from the URP Now Agriculture Initiative to children's homes, as the first harvest saw St. Mary's Children's Home presented with produce. Manager of the Sri Jaya Lakshmi Home, Helen Prasad Maharaj, says the assistance received is much welcomed as meals provided at their home are mainly vegetarian.
We are once again most appreciative. We are a vegetarian home, and these vegetables will come in very handy. It would save us quite a lot of money. It is not an easy task finding food every day for 26 children. It's not easy at all. So every little bit helps. Very quietly, we have been doing and trying to make a home for children who otherwise would be homeless, abandoned children, children who come from homes where there is a lot of domestic violence, children who are abused in different ways. We try very hard. It's very difficult because, remember, these children, they have a lot of baggage. So they look like any other normal child. They laugh, they play, they have their fun, but at the end of it all, they carry a lot of baggage. And these are the children to whom we reach out.
Spearheading the URP Now Agriculture Initiative is Joseph John, who says participants are allowed the opportunity to work on farms and learn how to start their own business.
It's really a result of the partnering of the URP together with the Ministry of Food Production Training Initiative, Agriculture Now Training, with the aim of training the URP employees to make a contribution towards the agriculture sector, whether it's in producing, whether it's processing, farming, marketing, whatever. And these agriculture crops that I said we're going to give to the home today, they were part of the second cohort, trainees from the second cohort who graduated from the same program, Agriculture Now. And they were grown in the Castonfield area. And this is just a dot on the map that what URP can do if we think positive and continue the training and continue to partner with the Ministry of Food Production.
So far, 11 stations have commenced growing of crops, while the program is carded to expand to other areas across Trinidad and Tobago. The program is one that aims at reinforcing labor in the sector, while at the same time giving back to the community. Kimberly Ramkalawan, News 4.
Sports is up next with an update from the Caribbean T20 Championship. Stay with us. We open our sportscast with cricket. With victories over the Leeward Islands and Jamaica, Barbados look like the team to beat in the Caribbean T20 Championship first round, which is being contested at the Queen's Park Oval in Port of Spain. When Barbados skittled out Guyana for 108 in their third match, it seemed like another win for the Bajans. But the Guyanese bowlers defeated that low total to dismiss Barbados for 66 in 17.2 overs and registered their second win. Started early in Barbados in their chase with a wicket falling in each of the first 3 overs. At one stage, they were 4-3, but recovered to 42 for 3 before all fell apart, with 7 wickets falling for 24 runs. Stephen Jacobs, Veerasamy Perumal and Christopher Barnwell took 2 wickets each for Guyana. There were also 3 runouts in the Barbados innings. And now on to football, with Caledonia AIA and W Connection being the top club teams in the Caribbean, coupled with Trinidad and Tobago's surprise run to the final of the Caribbean Cup. Many would say the resurgence in football has begun. The Ministry of Sport and the Sports Company of Trinidad and Tobago continue to invest in the leagues and programs which developed the talent and fuel this resurgence. One such talent is Atula Guerra. The John John resident has the dreams and aspirations of many young footballers, and he's determined to see them come through. Wayne Cunningham spoke to him following TNT's qualification for the CONCACAF Gold Cup.
Atula Guerra is easily one of the most skillful players in the TT Pro League, and his efforts there has earned him a much-deserved spot on the senior men's national football team, an achievement the attacking midfielder is proud of.
Well, for me, it's a great honor being with the national team and crying them to this Gold Cup that we have going to here now. And I would like to share this experience with each and every one of the teammates, because everybody give the effort here, to put we in this position here. And we have an opportunity to win this tournament here now.
Guerra formerly played for San Juan Jablote in the top flight of TT football, but is now attached to the Caribbean club champions Caledonia AIA, and he credits his growth as a player to his involvement in the Pro League.
Well, it improved me mentally, physically, and for me, I take it very serious because it's my life, and football is my life. Back home there, I have nothing really to, go back and fall back until I make sure and take football very serious back home, because it's the main source of me, and that put food on my table, you know what I mean? So for me, I find back home we just need a little more support within the crowd and, people coming out and watching football. For me, that is all I find we should get.
But the John John resident has dreams beyond the Pro League.
Well, for me, I have big hopes and big dreams, you know what I mean? And I would love to play at the highest level, even in Champions League, and play for some of the top teams in the world. You never know, because once you have life, you have everything, and most of all, you have to push yourself and be focused in life. That is the main objective.
Guerra also had some advice for youth with the same goals.
To develop himself first. Most of all, he have to develop himself mentally to be out there at that high stage and high level of football, you have to be focused. And first of all, you have to be dedicating your life to what is your ambition and goal in life, which is football.
Wayne Cunningham, News 4 Sports.
Thank you, Wayne Cunningham. When we come back, postal codes to roll out soon nationwide. Welcome back. The Trinidad and Tobago Postal Corporation will soon fully roll out postal codes throughout this country. This is expected to ensure that mail leaves its point of origin and reaches its destination with ease. More on this report from Nikolai Edwards.
The Trinidad and Tobago Postal Corporation stands to become more efficient with a reduction in undelivered local and cross-border mails. The revelation comes on the heels of Wednesday's launch of the International Addressing Standard at the Point Fortin Town Hall Auditorium. In February 2012, Trinidad and Tobago joined 28 other countries in receiving certification by the Universal Postal Union, which is the governing body of Post. Then in March, postal codes were introduced, which meant addresses would have a 6-digit zip or postal code, with the first 2 digits indicating one of 72 postal districts, 64 in Trinidad and 8 in Tobago. Point Fortin Mayor Alderman Clyde Paul threw his support and that of the Borough Corporation behind the initiative. A pilot of the internationally accepted addressing standard, known as the S42 addressing standard, was undertaken in the borough. The postal standard corrects the addressing elements such as lot numbers, lamppost numbers, and mile markers, and promotes the use of civic numbers. Minister of Public Utilities, the Honourable Nizam Bashk, says this initiative brings Trinidad and Tobago one step closer to developed nation status. He explained that Point Fortin was chosen to undergo the pilot initiative as it possessed all the features of the delivery service, including the challenges. Several street names and addresses were corrected through the pilot, which will see mail delivery more efficient in the borough. Following the exercise, Point Fortin officially became the first zone to have implemented the postal codes. The Honourable Minister says TT Post can look forward to a likely increase in postal revenue based on an improved ability to process larger volumes of international business mail. Minister Bashk also states that the implementation of the S42 standard throughout the country will positively impact the activities of government agencies such as the ODPM, who will benefit from maps that will carry both postal codes and detailed addresses, which can aid in emergency response planning. The Central Statistical Office and the Elections and Boundaries Commission are also expected to benefit from the standard when they carry out their exercises. Soon, TT Post will roll out postal codes for the entire country and is in the process of beta testing an internet-based postal code finder that will allow citizens to not only know their postal code, but also those throughout Trinidad and Tobago. Nikolai Edwards, News 4.
And that's a wrap for our News 4 report, a product of the Government Information Services Limited and the Ministry of Communications. I'm Joseph Lopez. Thank you for watching.